He's going up against what I believe to be the strongest diva in this tournament right now in terms of current performance. Heiko has been unstoppable, almost unmatched in this role.
And it's going to be Ilias who started all off. Quad tank versus a 2-2-2 coming out of Snakes. We'll see whether or not, after a little bit more prep time, under 24 hours, can Snakes clip Eagle Gaming's wings? Have they found the strategy to make it work?
Well, asking on the Hanzo. Heiko going forward, they're just going to go ahead and touch base with them a little bit. Go ahead and try to take the damage very quickly there, but now we'll see.
Nesh picking up that first blood in the backline as Lobo, a little under too much pressure, will be the one to go down. Super Fluke to follow, and it seems like Snakes definitely finding those kills even after that first point. Kappa did go over to Eagle Gaming. This is exactly what you want to do with this type of composition, with the 2-2-2. Find those angles, find those squishy targets like that Lucer. We even see Lobo only at 32% towards that sound barrier.
Leaf making a swap now over to the Winston, as he's looking to now try to contest the high ground, try to come in with Nico. It's that two-pronged attack that we've seen already today. CIS Hope tried to bring it out, but Eagle Gaming, I think, is the best at it. Gonna go right up to that high ground. Already jumping up into it, forcing them back. Leaf taking some pressure initially, but they do find the kill onto the Mercy.
Pip has been so good in terms of committing that coalescence for a kill onto the likes of a Mercy or a Farah. This time around, it's going to be Cave. They want to go down, but not without a fight, as we do see the rest of Snakes fight it out onto the point. Nesh is going to pop that barrage. Still, kills favoring the side of Snakes, as it will be CIS Hope falling short.
Neshin asking, wow, what a way. I mean, Kodak as well, pushing out so much of that damage as he was just nestled in safely, throwing out those damage orbs, throwing out the discords as well. Coming into this next fight though, Eagle Gaming, who did manage to come away with 21% after that one, they will have the Graviton Surge, but they won't have Coalescence to throw out inside of it. Not just yet, as long though as they can get some more healing out here, they might be able to do it because Hip is already up at 75% already.
That was very important, though. They did manage to force out the Transcendence out of Kodak early, and with the Graviton coming through, it's not going to catch too many targets, and now that will enable Asking to find one kill onto Leaf, and with the Coalescence being there, we'll keep the rest of this Eagle Gaming lineup alive, but the question is for how long, as Nesh will get Nico.
Oh, he's still hanging out. I mean, they have to find a way to deal with Nesh here. They might be able to get control of the point, but over time, they will lose it because they just can't deal with Nesh on this Pharah. They surge out of this point. They just come crashing into Snakes, taking out both Asking and Kodak. Now there's just no more of that pressure to be able to dish out, to take them down. Yes, Nesh can push out some of his own. Yes, he can kind of displace them a little bit, but without the discords, without Asking to supply a little bit more pressure, they're not gonna find the kills. So Eagle Gaming now catching things back up. They're only about 12 seconds away from evening the score here in our first round.
And if Eagle Gaming play this in a smart fashion, they will really not even be in a position where Nesh can find those angles with the rocket barrage. Self-destruct up the top. Nico fighting Kave, and with that kill, this should be good for Eagle Gaming, but Asking actually getting one of its own with the Sonic Arrow. We'll be looking for more potentially off of the Dragon Strike, and this at the very least will push things a little bit in a more difficult spot for Eagle Gaming, as it will go towards 85% built up for them.
Well, Graviton ready for hardest. If there's ever a way to take this fight as well, it's got to be behind that. Graviton looking for some way to get it in. Now Nico losing his mech. Heiko still has his. In fact, he will also take a couple of kills. They're trying to drain away Christopher's HP, but he primal rages to stay alive. And not only will he stay up, but so will their chances of flipping this point. They get it flipped here in just a moment, as it's still 99% for Eagle Gaming. They have one opportunity now to come back in this one, and it has to be off of the back of a massive Earthshatter from Super Fluke, or they have to somehow find some way to sustain. Leaf now is actually onto the Roadhog as he's swapped off of that as well. You know, trying to get off of that Winston, have that pick potential for them to get onto the point with.
But if they don't find that entry pick, Nesh should have more than enough space to work with in terms of finding the damage himself, as he does have the barrage at already. It will have the rest of Eagle Gaming onto the point now, finally contested by the rest of Snakes. Overtime kicking through. Earthshatter's gonna find one onto Heiko as well as Christopher, but the Dragon Strike is there. One kill onto that Winston. The Resurrect will come through. Rocket Barrage only finds the D-Suit leap, getting the hook sound barrier to secure this fight potentially for Eagle Gaming, but it's still a back and forth. It's gonna be up to Hardest to potentially charge up, point to flip back into their favor. Can Eagle Gaming close this out? The answer is yes. Asking will also fall, and they do it, but ever so barely.
I mean, Eagle Gaming, I love that change actually, where Leaf went off the Winston and back over to the Roadhog. They were able to have, you know, a good showing once they just drove themselves into that point. And here's where we see some more sniper play, I have to imagine. Maybe Eagle Gaming sticks to their guns here. Maybe they instead stick to a 2-2-2, where they can have that, again, that two-pronged attack, having, you know, the dives from Nico and Leaf combining. Then you have Super Pluke and Hardest on the ground fighting that kind of game, contesting that way, and still have those healers to be able to hit their resets. We have a DC real quick here, as we will see Kodak looking to come back into this game, and we want to jump back into this one as quick as possible. So we will be back as soon as they, or we will be back into the map rather as soon as they have Kodak come back in. But we're sitting right now at 1-0, Eagle Gaming on top, and this is a familiar setting to the start of this matchup.
But to be fair, in favor of Snakes, they did look better compared to their Ilios performance yesterday versus Eagle Gaming already. And moving on to Ruins, this is the type of map where you expect these players like Asking and Nesh to really pop off and potentially force Eagle Gaming to pull out some DPSs of their own, especially that Widowmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to see how they're going to throw out, you know, like a Hanzo and a Farah or something like that to be able to contest what might be, you know, like a 3-1-2 or a 2-1-3, maybe bringing out a solo DPS, whether it be Hardest or whomever. And it looks like instead they're still going to be staying with that quad tank. They're still going to be going for that 4-0-2. One of the only teams right now to still be pulling this out, especially on Control. CIS Hope, one of the other teams that actually does still utilize it. But Eagle Gaming has made some really big plays with this quad tank, and once again, they will pull this out. However, how are they going to deal with Nesh in the sky here?
It's going to be tough, but I think the answer might just be Hip. He has been so good when it comes to enabling those early few fights with that Coalescence, as he will manage to charge up that ultimate so fast with this type of composition. Already surging forward onto the point. It's going to be Eagle Gaming with Control. Already struggling to find those angles. Snakes will give up that first point cap.
And watch how Nico plays this one out, too, alongside Leaf, where he's going to be able to get aggressive, try to provide support for Leaf, as he actually perhaps overextends. They wanted to stop dive there. They hard engage instead. Now they're going to lose 2 people because of it. A little bit of some overcommitment on the part of their dive allowed for Asking to just come through on the Hanzo, punish that completely. They should get the flip here, but still, the sustain is insane from this quad tank. And this is, you know, that beginning where we saw the 3-0-3 come out initially. This is the start. This is where it all kind of started. This triple tank, you know, back in the day with NIP, came over to the quad tank, and Eagle Gaming is just a ferocious contender when they're able to pull this composition out.
But look at that for Snakes, definitely making the most out of the fact that they are able to farm up those ultimates through such a HP-heavy composition coming out of Eagle Gaming. They will pretty much have all their ultimates available in the next team fight. Yes, Hardest did manage to charge up quite a bit, but it's going to be once again the Coalescence to look out for the Mercy, and he gets it again.
Oh, Leaf with a very important pick, that Mercy taken down as Heiko will lose his mech and his life. The big boop from Lilbo. Nesh now falling low, easily taken out. They will flip the point quickly back in their favor, once again gaining control not only of the point, but of the map as a whole, taking Kodak out late, taking Asking, might even find the Mercy kill as Kave doesn't go back to the spawn, instead opts to go, for some reason, over to the side. So yet another kill for them. And it's going to be some time now before Snakes is able to get back into a position where they can jump back in there. But look at what they have at their disposal. Literally everything.
They need to make it happen. We saw how hungry Nico was on that D.Va, making sure he eats up those Dragon Strikes, as the Graviton will be there. He actually denies it again. Nico will be the one to shut down Nesh on top, and now it's gonna be Eagle Gaming not only with the percentage advantage, but potentially the team fight win.
That was my other point about Nico as well, but as we look to see how the rest of this fight will play out, Heiko looking to re-engage, but they need to actually regroup, it seems. But let's talk about that Nico side. Oh, can't do that now because Nash might be back into this fight. Nico gonna drop his mech. This time, Nash, nobody can to contest him. However, he will die off. A rocket hit that pillar and he kills himself, unfortunately for Snakes. Asking though, still in this backline. They still don't see him. He has his Dragon Strike. Kodak is on the point as well. He takes out Hardest. As you can see, as Super Fluke dies off, it's now Snakes on the point. They've got control.
But still, they need to win out all the team fights if they are to stay throughout Ilios to push this one to another round. And considering the fact that Hardest still has their Graviton, it's going to be extremely difficult. And Nesh, just for you, I will mention the fact that the Winston bubble was there, so that is what took him out of that fight. So it's not going to be the case right now with the pillar. Asking though, finding that kill onto him will be big. Now Hardest going down too, will not find an angle off with that Graviton, and this is exactly what Snakes need to do, what they need to keep it up in order to bring this to a 1-to-1 point score.
Yeah, they really need, Heiko to step up and have such an exceptional game here. I mean, he needs to go from A+ to something higher than that, to be able to take down Hardest, make sure he denies the Graviton here. He's been so good about it so far. Needs to really have that same level of impact here. Asking with the Dragon Strike ready. Graviton does come down, but it's in the back line. There's no follow-up there. Hardest, what are you doing, buddy?
We'll still secure one onto Asking, and again, one teamfight win is all they need, but if they lose this one, it might be enough for Snakes to take the round, as the self-destruct will be popped by Heiko. Instead finds one onto him, was unable to stay alive, did not have that cooldown. Super Fluke under a lot of pressure will go down as well, and member advantage building up for Snakes.
Oh, they might be able to hang on here. However, this is a potential turning point, as the sound barrier does come out, keeps them alive, allows them to hit their resets right here and right now. Asking on the Hanzo. Wow, Snakes equalize already. Nobody able to get back to the point. 1-1. Snakes versus Eagle Gaming in our grand final. And I feel like we not only have a map on our hands, but we might indeed have an entire series for ourselves.
And we gotta praise Snakes for not only coming back stronger in this next day. If they keep up this performance, they're gonna be looking like the favorites in the matchup. And I'm not sure if it's just the players playing out of their minds, or if also the staff really done an excellent job in terms of making sure they improve towards this day of the grand finals, as they did have a better performance, not only against CISO, but already looking better versus Eagle Gaming.
And we saw yesterday, especially on Eichenwald and, moving forward from Eichenwald, where we saw Anubis, the impact that Zarya can have when they don't get off their Graviton. Hardest, unfortunately, fell a little short on his Graviton usage on Eichenwald and might have been able to save point B. Could have done the same thing on that last point as well. Unfortunately, just kind of whiffed it a little bit. Not a thing that happens often with Hardest, but has happened twice now in 2 days. But as we look forward to this next map, Nico has lost his mech already, so they don't have that same level of protection, and Eagle Gaming now trying to put on the pressure to make up for that, allow space for Nico to get his mech back if possible.
And Hardest coming alive on this McCree instead was an interesting pick. We'll be able to deal with the likes of Nesh as well as Cave, as they did find that particular kill to enable this first point take, this first cap take, rather, for Eagle Gaming, looking to hold control of it. Still, interesting composition overall. Leaf is going to be booped though. Nesh coming back in, finds a really important pick.
Seems like a lot of Brigidas have had a lot of trouble dealing with Ferris. I mean, just getting bullied by him. Here's the Deadeye. Oh, gets taken out of the question. Heiko eliminate that one. Oh, and the boop as well. Nash finding yet another target with this Pharah. And they should be able to get the flip here. Still, though, being contested by the tanks. And we'll see a pause come out here as well. Snakes, you can see right across the line, they have all of their ultimates. They are certainly in a position where they could take this here. But Nesh over the top needs to, pull out a barrage that takes a lot of damage out right here. But even, you see right under them, it's going to be Nico, one of those guys that, you really expect to have that quick reaction time. They know Pharah's over the top. They're talking about it now. We know that in their comms, they're talking about, okay, there's a Pharah up top. Make sure that we can block out the barrage if necessary. We see Super Fluke there, not I think he just got out of his primal rage, if not still in it. So once he gets out of it, or realizes that they're coming back into it, throws out the barrier. We could see the same thing with Nesh killing himself on the barrage as well. So we're not exactly sure what's going to come of this. The rest of this play, we see Nesh and Heiko still involved. Nico, Lilbo, and Hip are all involved, as well as Super Pluke. So it seems as though, with Eagle Gaming already up 30-0 in percentage, they still have 4 members on the point. They still have their healers. So this could very well be a situation where Eagle Gaming actually does wind up hanging on.
And I think more importantly is the fact that Lilbo is right up in there, grouped over the rest of the team, will be able to pull off a cast with the sound barrier, as he does have it at the ready. And as you said, considering the fact that Nico is lying in wait right underneath Nesh, the Rocket Barrage is not going to be able to find a shutdown kill. And that's going to be a tough spot if you are a fan of Snakes here. Going in back into the map, we'll see what Nesh's approach is going to be. He's going to disengage, so playing it safe instead, not really overcommitting.
Yeah, and they know that they have everything available, so they don't want to just throw anything out unnecessarily, because if all things go well, they're able to retake this point off the back of maybe 2 ultimates. They don't want to use more than that. And actually, Nesh, instead of going for the barrage, taking the death, and maybe forcing some cooldowns out, he just straight up swaps to Brigitte.
Interesting choice. Not quite sure if it's going to pay out so far as already. We'll see the coolest come out of him. Christopher popping that Primal Rage, looking to displace their opponents, maybe set them up in the self-destruct. Is not going to find any kills. And now with the rally up and available for Eagle Gaming, they still have that point in their favor. 70% almost on the board. Christopher will go down 2, and Eagle Gaming looking like they might pull up a 100-0.
Yeah, they are just ripping down Snakes. Completely taking them bit by bit, ripping them apart. Eagle Gaming at 82%, winning yet another fight. And you can see how quickly the ultimate economy has shifted back in favor of Eagle Gaming as they win out that fight, being much more efficient with what they're using, still holding on to that sound barrier. They also have the self-destruct to clear the objective as well.
We will see whether or not Kodak with that Transcendence will be enough, especially since asking does find 1 kill to Dragonster will come through, but Nico with a double off of the self-destruct will secure this team fight potentially now, especially with the sound barrier keeping the rest of his team alive. Leaf will find a kill onto Nesh, and now looking for more. It's just going to be Eagle Gaming looking for the map win onto Ilios. Hip having the coalescent skill kills, all in favor of the blue team of Eagle Gaming, and with the pushing their opponents away, they will manage to grab that 1-0 lead.
Their ability to sustain with this quad tank, even with, not even running the quad tank in some instances where you see them running a 2-1-3 or a 3-1-2 and stuff like that, is just outrageous. I mean, Eagle Gaming is one of the only teams that's still trying to utilize this comp, and it's not just an attempt. I mean, we're talking about the ability to pull it off in a way that no other team can. CIS Hope did not have the same level of consistency with this type of composition, with this very tank-heavy style. And even Singularity, who ran the 303, like the GOATS comp, whatever you want to call it, they didn't even make it as far either. So these are the 2 teams making it into the grand finals. We're talking about teams that often, at least recently, have run 2-2-2, but Eagle Gaming making a little bit further ahead, still kind of running that tank setup.
And we did see a little bit of improvement overall for Snakes, managing to make it a 2-1. I do have to say, I'm not going to fully agree with Nesh's decision there to not at the very least pop that Rocket Barrage. I do think, like you said, at the very least force out something like that sound barrier out of Lilbo to potentially swing things in your favor was the thing that would be looking out for. But that's still not going to be the case. And as a result, Eagle Gaming will take that 1-0 lead. And the next map coming up will be Eichenwald. Can Eagle Gaming make up for their loss yesterday, or will see Snakes equalize the series 1-1? Eagle Gaming up 1-0, same scoreline as yesterday when it comes to this matchup. And now that we will be moving on Eichenwald, yes, we did see Snakes win out yesterday. However, seeing them perform today, and as well as considering the fact that Eagle Gaming perhaps missing out on a few small team fight mistakes there yesterday, what is going to be your take for Eichenwald this time around?
Once again, I'm absolutely looking at Nico. I mean, he was such a performer, I think, yesterday when we saw them, on this map where he was able to kind of make up for some lost time, make up for some mistakes that were made by Eagle Gaming during their attacking phase. Uh, you know, where he was on the Diva, and I think that's where I actually think he had his best performance. I already mentioned how I think Nico is one of those guys that's certainly in the running for like an MVP run of this tournament as a whole. Certainly in the EU side of things, Heiko, one of the other guys, as well as asking. But Nico being able to shut down Nesh almost on every level yesterday, almost by himself as well, where he was able to peel for his team, get into the back line, put out some pressure himself, keep the sustain up for his tank line, and on top of that, still be aggressive into the sky, taking out Nesh, who was on the Pharah, taking out Kave, who was up there with him as well on the Mercy. The ability for him to kind of seamlessly translate, from aggression to peeling to going for, some ability to push people back and everything like that, knock people around as well. Nico has been phenomenal on this map in the past. He has to continue that performance here today because this is a map that Eagle Gaming definitely struggled on, I would say, especially when it comes to, their strategy and their synergy on this map as well. It just things were not clicking, especially through that second phase of the map.
And I mean, we did even see Nico take out Nesh on that Diva v Pharah duel after he died out through the use of that self-destruct. So even in death, Nico doing his job there, making sure he is not a threat. But the map is ready to go. We will be moving on to Eichenwald with Eagle Gaming first off on defense.
Once again, we will see Snakes bringing out Nesh on the Pharah. Going to be dealing with Hardest up there in the skies, and Leaf on the Brigitte as well. I just think back to every time we've seen a Brigitte against the Pharah and how much these Pharahs have been bullying Brigittas so far in the EU bracket for sure. I mean, Fall definitely took some heat as well earlier in the tournament. Everybody's been struggling against these Pharahs.
But at the very least, having the rest of the Eagle Gaming lineup support you might be the thing to look out for. But in the meantime, asking does find that kill onto Lilbo. He finds a double with both of the Pharah and the Mercy out of the sky. This should open things up in a big way for Nesh to really come alive. But it's going to be Heiko and still asking, finding the kills on top of this point.
Wow, they just bulldozed the objective in about a minute's time. There's Hardest actually swapping over to the Zarya. So they're going to try to set up into a position where they can run a 3-0-3, however, with some different supports. And this isn't the first time we've seen this, actually. We've seen a Zen Mercy being brought into this comp. It's a lot different to play this, than what you typically see with the Lucio and the Moira. You don't have the speed, you don't have the all-out aggression, but what you do have is the ability to fall back and reset, and you have a little bit more damage with this as well.
And yesterday in particular, they were really good around making sure that Hip does stay safe. He does have that armor most of the time to work with, and already even though the Dragon Strike comes through, we will see no kills in favor of the attacking side of Snakes, and this is going to be the position where they're going to most likely struggle the most with under that archway with that payload. However, Nesh finally only now contested by Nico. We'll have the Rocket Barrage, and without to add for those thrusters to make sure Nico does go right up into his face. It's going to be a double kill for Nesh. The rest will be there. Self-destruct pop by Nico, finds one kill, so maybe Eagle Gaming still surging forward.
Oh, we see Nesh just getting away from Nico for now. He's still contesting him, though, trying to take away some of that pressure. Super Fluke lays everybody down. Earthstrider came out, forced out Heiko's self-destruct. They get away from it, and they're still contesting this point. Snakes will lose their main tank, Christopher, and Hardest still holding on to this. Graviton doesn't want to or need to pull it out here, as look at him with like 90 energy just melting anybody in his range.
And again, this has been the toughest spot for most of the teams, but especially when you're up against these brawl-heavy compositions. Just making sure you get that payload past this point really enables the attacking side to have multiple angles, multiple approaches will be struggling for now, and it's gonna really have to be up to the likes of Nesh and asking to once again be those strong DPSs. And now already Super Fluke gotta be shielded up, however, not for long. Hip does find one return kill, but with the Dragon Strike coming through, hardest gonna draw low, but Nico finding the self-destruct kills time and time again will be able to push the opposition once more towards their spawn.
Hip has the Transcendence as well, and there's no offensive options for Snakes to get push their way through this archway. So if they even find a pick, it could still be out-sustained by Hip on this, or with this Transcendence, and Lilbo could easily find that res. And that's one of the pros of having a Mercy with this composition, is that, you know, if you can provide coverage and, you know, with the Zarya, with the Reinhardt, with the D.Va, you should be able to. But they take Lilbo out of all people, and that's the worst person Eagle Gaming could have lost right here.
And we'll see the charge secure. One kill for Super Fluke. Transcendence was popped by Hip, and if we will see Snakes come back in, find the kill to Zenyatta, that might finally be the thing to open it all up in terms of this archway point. Now Lee finding a kill onto Christopher. Dragon Strike did come through, asking finally getting the kill onto that Zenyatta, but this should still be enough for the rest of Eagle Gaming to make sure they do find that regroup and they do stay alive on top of that payload.
Kaveh forced to push away a little bit. Still though, they cannot find a way through at all. Maybe now will be their time though, as Super Fluke goes down. Nico, no one left with him other than Lilbo on the Lucio, looking to sustain alongside his little baby D.Va right next to him. Hip gonna be dying off as well, and finally Snakes will push through the archway and open up the map into a section where they should have a much better performance here.
And the important thing for them, I feel like, is the fact that they managed to find their way through that first objective much faster than yesterday. Nesh already opening it up with the Rocket Barrage will be shut down by Nico. And now with a 6v5 man disadvantage for Snakes, with that armor still available for the defensive side, they're gonna look to push forward. They're gonna look to catch their opponents in that Graviton. Secure one kill onto ASCII. Transcendence was there, but you gotta question whether or not it was too late, because it's still Eagle Gaming coming out on top.
Oh, Kaveh hunted down by Nico. He just won't let him go at all. And Heiko just going to be forced to jump off because, you know, he doesn't want to give away too much more ult charge. Certainly, Eagle Gaming has enough right now. Having that Earth Shatter, I mean, very close to having two of their support ults. Knowing Moira, knowing Lucio, those could come up pretty quickly with the composition that they're running currently. Just that straight up 3-0-3.
Dragon Strike will push Super Fluke to be pretty low, asking, finding the kill onto hardest in the thick of things. Will be a 6v5 advantage in their favor. Finally, being able to get Nico desuited as well should enable Nesh to find those easy kills potentially, but Hip hunting him down already with the Coalescence will look to push them away, so will Kaveh potentially, but with the sound barrier being committed, things all of a sudden still looking better for Snakes. Only those delays coming through for Eagle Gaming.
But delays are important here because they can come back into this next fight if Hardest is able to get closer to that Graviton. Fortunately for them, you know, they're not going to get to where they need to be, but they have the rally to re-engage with. They have the Earth Shatter. If they somehow catch Kodak before he can pop that Transcendence, lay him down, take him out of the fight, they could win this fight here and stop them right now.
I think they're gonna look for a potential Earth Shatter into the boops, even depending on how they position themselves. Nesh though already contested of what's just been the same story time and time again. And with two down for Snakes, things are not looking too good. Even the boop happening there in the end, but no, Kaveh does find his way back up. It's gonna be Kodak the one to drop. Dragon Strike coming in, asking really needs to be the big factor for his team as it is overtime. Only Christopher and Kaveh lift up to the point. They will not make it back down. And Eagle Gaming looking even better on Iron Ball defense.
Their defense, I mean, they just took a little page out of their book from yesterday where their defense was fantastic. I mean, when they played against Snakes, it was basically the same exact setup where we saw them, you know, able to completely remove Nesh from a lot of these fights and almost completely disallow them from actually pushing through the archway. This time they pulled off even better, take more time off the clock, and then by the time they're actually rounding ahead of the castle, they've only got 20 seconds. I mean, that's all that they have left. However, I mean, Eagle Gaming now, you know, as they attack, they don't have much distance to cover. This is a similar situation to what we saw the last time around, but they're already up 1-0. As you mentioned, they are looking better.
And the big thing is, okay, yes, they did lose that first point relatively quickly, but the way they played around that archery was a definite treat to behold. And now, as you said, swapping over sides, I'm curious to see what Snakes will do in terms of their defense. They really need to make this one work on that first point, make sure they stall this one out as much as possible, because they're most likely not going to be running that brawl-heavy style, right? And if you don't have that brawl-heavy style, you're not going to have it as easy a time in terms of making sure you can test them under that archway and waste as much time as Eagle Gaming did for Snakes.
All right, 20 seconds away. Looks like the 3-0-3 for Eagle Gaming that they're going to be pulling out here. What kind of answers are Snakes going to have for us? They've been one of the better teams in dealing with it, but lately it's been a little bit more of a struggle, I would say, because Eagle Gaming is a team that doesn't often pull out a 3-0-3, but when they have pulled it out, like their defense, it's been phenomenal. I mean, they don't have to be fully aggressive like you see in NA. Instead, they are just so efficient with how they rotate players to deal with certain things. And this is one of the first times we'll actually get a good look at what it looks like for them to attack with it.
So far, managing to stay alive, not really giving up too much. Even their opponents not finding those angles for that damage. Nesh long away from that ultimate. Same the case for Asking. Firestrike connecting onto quite a few targets there for Super Fluke, looking to contest that point. We do potentially see Christopher dropping down eventually, but already one tick on the board for Eagle Gaming. It's gonna be Asking with that first blood, but Hardest answers, and Nesh going down yet again.
Nico is so good at dealing with Pharahs. Reminds me a lot of Who Are You? Last pit season on this point as well, exactly, where they just dive up and are quickly dispatching Pharahs in the sky, taking it to their turf and eliminating them. Now they will go forward, trying to just create space long enough for them to get their way through the archway, something that Snakes really struggled with in their attack. Luckily for Snakes, they still have the Pharah here to be able to contest this, push them back behind that gate, and hold them there long enough for the rest of their team to maybe catch up.
It's been not quite an effective choice for Nesh, especially on Eichenwald, to run that Pharah. He really needs to start making it work, because so far, if you don't win out in terms of that grind game really early, it's gonna be all about that brawl comp. Dragon Strike is gonna come through, doesn't find any targets. The Rocket Barrage to follow. Nobody to contest him this time outside of the ground damage. He does get the D-suit, but it's still Eagle Gaming in full control of the payload.
Lobo wrapping around. Look at them just weaving around the payload and sustaining their Kodak. Dies off, but he will be coming back with the Transcendence, and they need that along with almost everything else that they could possibly pull out, because getting ever closer to that checkpoint. Eagle Gaming rounding the corner, the last one here. Can they get it done?
Christopher really needs to jump in. It's going to be alongside Heiko. They get the boop off to Super Fluke with Nesh finally finding that kill. They need to make sure they capitalize it, not really overcommit. The Graviton is going to come through, but all the way in the end, it's not going to catch anyone. Heiko finds the self-destruct kill. The boop on the other side will not be effective. Christopher managing to jump right back in. And finally, Snakes do manage to find that team fight win, but with 3 minutes and 55 seconds, this is going to be such a tough ask of them.
Did you catch where that Graviton went? Did you catch where Hardest actually threw that?
It was near that exit way coming out of spawn.
Okay. So one of those possibly classic Hardest Gravitons. But nonetheless, they will look to re-engage yet again here. They didn't have Super Fluke in the last engagement. They have him now. Leafen's also making a swap over to the Winston. He will be able to contest that high ground. Super Fluke once again going to die off as Snakes converge onto that Reinhardt, take him out of play. 3 minutes though that they still have to be able to defend this with, and as we see Eagle Gaming slowly building those ultimates back up, it's just gonna get scarier and scarier.
And yes, you will be able to have Asti in charge of that Dragon Strike really quickly, but having that Sound Barrier, having the Coalescence, Hip has been so lethal with it too, making sure he deals with that Fairy Mercy combo, and it's gonna come down to these potential kills now from those environmental kills in particular. It's gonna be Lilbo claiming that first one. The Rocket Bar is gonna come for Earth Shatter. Sits only Christopher flat, and now as we will see Eagle Gaming finding the kills. Nobody left out to that payload. Finally, Nesh drops down, but he will be the final member coming out of Snakes, and Eagle Gaming with a much more cleaner Eichenwald play, taking the 2-0 lead in the series.
Such clean. I mean, such much more clean. There we go. I'm still learning English, man. But I mean, yeah, much more clean than what we saw from them yesterday. We still saw that same level of performance from Nico, where he was able. I think there were a couple of gaps where Nesh was able to figure things out, but we even saw Nico looking a little bit more aggressive today, and that's probably where those holes came in, where Nesh was able to still find some kills, still look pretty lethal as well on that Pharah. But nonetheless, they still held them in that archway, the same exact strat that they pulled out. They left their supports even on some less than ideal picks as compared to what they would have liked to have had as they slowly shifted over to the 3-0-3. But then when we saw them attack with it, yes, it's a lot different than what we see, Goats, how Goats utilizes it. It's a lot different than what we saw from Singularities, Bird Boys, every other team that we've seen running the 3-0-3. But the way that they play it is still very solid. I mean, it's a little bit less aggressive, but they still take the fight to the enemy. They still go look for the control on the point, and they still win out fights very consistently. So overall, Eagle Gaming still showing that they have the ability to run that tank lineup, not just the quad, but even the 3-0-3.
And I think another thing to highlight is the fact that we've talked about how Pharas were able to deal with the Brigittas in particular, time and time again, and Leaf this time on defense at the very least, really managing to stay alive throughout most of those fights. It was very rare to see him, especially dive first off in those fights.
Yeah, I mean, even when you talk about the 3-0-3 and how Eagle Gaming does it differently, one thing that I think is very, very important is the way that they utilize that last pick as a flex. We saw CIS Hope kind of bouncing between the Roadhog and a couple of other DPS-style choices, but instead, Eagle Gaming often goes over to a Winston. And yes, CIS Hope did that as well, but when Eagle Gaming pulls this Winston out, it completely changes the way that they, the entire dynamic of the composition. They can now contest high ground. One of the big structural weaknesses of the 3-0-3 is the inability to contest high ground. So all of a sudden, Eagle Gaming takes this grounded composition, this brawl-style composition, separates it out, takes isolation fights. They can go with, some soft dives as well, taking people out of their nested positions, which is another way to deal with 3-0-3, and flips everything on its head. And all of a sudden, they go for a 3-0-3. You find the answer. They switch one character, and all of a sudden, you are now losing again.
And it's going to be tough for Snakes to come back. Now they are down 2-0. This is match point for Eagle Gaming, but coming up next, it will be Anubis. It is match point for Eagle Gaming already, and one person that's been silent throughout this series has been asking.
Yeah, asking, who we talked about before as a potential, MVP candidate for this EU bracket, has been quieted to levels unheard of so far. I mean, we have yet to really see much out of him at all, even as they go up against the tank style, the tank heavy lineups that we see out of Eagle Gaming. When asking has had some of his best performances, it's actually been against 222, sure, but he's also had some really good experiences against tank lineups. But Eagle Gaming has, like we said, silenced him almost outright. Yes, Nico did focus most of his denial against Nesh and did quite a good job at doing that. But the issue now is, what's going on with asking? Super Pluke, we saw a couple of shatters go right to asking, making sure that they take him out of the fight as well. So it seems like when we see these tanks playing from Eagle Gaming, they're looking for those DPS members, because as soon as we see the damage out of the question, Snakes no longer has a way to, out-sustain them, and easily they can push in, be more aggressive, because there's no pressure on them anymore. They can just hold W again.
And I think it's not just perhaps asking not really performing to expectations. It's also the fact that Eagle Gaming, we got to praise them for their preparation, for how they really are playing against this setup, because they really seems to have figured out Snakes and how they find success overall.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think one of the keys for their success as well is eliminating the gamble of running double sniper into them as often as possible. If they do run it, they won't run it for very long, because they know that if they go up against asking and Nesh, that's where they've had some of their better performances. So remove that from the equation. Instead, look for other options. Play out tank lineups, play dive style compositions if you want to as well, and have the upper hand compositionally right from the outset, and that's how Eagle Gaming has always stayed ahead in this matchup.
Oh, but already the supports of Eagle Gaming finding a lot of pressure. Hip, they drop pretty low. The rest of this team under a lot of duress. It's gonna be, however, Dumb still surging forward, looking for something. Christopher finding that first blood is gonna be big, as the rest of Eagle Gaming are going to be falling short.
I love this composition too. The Junkrat Hanzo. I mean, this is your classic anti-tank default. I mean, this is it. This is the complete and total answer for almost every type of push that you can get from a 4 tank. But you still have to play it well. You still have to, be very consistent in the way that you approach these fights. Otherwise, Eagle Gaming will find a hole and exploit it.
And I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to be ready for that Riptire, perhaps waiting out on the Coalescence, as it will be popped. However, the Riptire is still looking for this target, will not be spotted just yet. It's going to be the Dragon Strike coming through. One tick on the board for Eagle Gaming. Leaf does go down. 6v5 advantage being built up in terms of those members here for Snakes. Self-destruct popped up into their kills, still favoring their side, as Lilbo did go down. The rest of Eagle Gaming forced underneath that high ground.
And with this 4-0-2 having the Winston in play too, you can see them kind of playing it like a dive, but then they send the rest of their team onto the point as if it was, that old version of the Slambulance with the Roadhog, where they just go straight to point and try to pull everybody to it. So the soft dive pushes them onto the point, forces them off of plat, where you see Leaf and Nico push them off of it. Their natural point of recession is onto the point. Guess who's right behind them when they do? Super Pluke, Hardest, Hip, Lilbo, they're all just lying in wait. So it's gonna take a skillful rotation from Snakes to stay alive in those situations.
Oh, but that's a really good pick. Hardest is not gonna have that Graviton available. Nesh Magic to charge up that Riptire will secure another kill. And now his asking is still popping off alongside Nesh. It will be once more Eagle Gaming not finding the space they needed and wanted, and nothing more outside of that first tick achieved onto the point.
All right, Graviton now ready for Hardest. They're starting to build up some of these ultimates. Now it's Eagle Gaming's turn. They already have 1 tick. I wouldn't expect anything different from them in terms of the way that they approach this fight. Just a lot more kill potential when they actually do get over there. They're going to wait out that Dragon Strike and look to engage off of that. However, they still have to wait for Nico to get back into Beck, and there he is.
Those zoning golds making sure they stall for time, because it's already down to 1 more minute here for Eagle Gaming. This is looking good as Super Pluke snipes Kave with the Fire Strike. Things looking better and better. Hip having that Coalescence will secure even more potentially for his team. However, we need to see the rest of this lineup collapse on top of the point. It's not going to happen. And the big factor here for Eagle Gaming is the fact that they still have so many ultimates too.
They also have the ability to contest the high ground, which again is that different dynamic to the 303 that, you know, the Winston offers as opposed to the Brigitte. But this is a you know, an ideal situation, more or less. Yes, they would like to have the self-destruct, but they still have the Primal Rage, they still have the Sound Barrier, they have the Graviton Surge as well, looking to try to unleash that right away. They've already lost Christopher.
And the Dragon Strike, unable to find the kills, is gonna be huge here. Self-destruct will be prompted. The Triptire is gonna come through as Graviton did come out. Leaf does go out, but it's still all about Eagle Gaming on top of this point. 2-6 secure hardest, picks up a triple. There's coming back in. It's not gonna make it on time. And
wow.
Just Eagle Gaming storming that second objective. We'll get it with exactly 4 minutes left in their time.
4 minutes left. I mean, yes, we have seen better times than that in this tournament, but still 4 minutes is undoubtedly, indisputably, a very solid time to work with. I mean, as they made their first attack, they were halted a few times. Snakes had a great showing initially, but as soon as you have those quad tanks start building up their ultimates, as soon as you jump into the fight and you get picks without having to utilize those ultimates, I mean, how do you shift momentum back in your favor? It has to be with the DPS ults. It has to be with Riptire. It has to be with Dragon Strike. Both of them didn't get the job done. All of a sudden, you lose Christopher, and there's no hope anymore. I mean, there's simply no hope at that stage. Eagle Gaming definitely had their foot on the gas pedal. They had control of the steering wheel as well. The whole car was Eagle Gaming's in their attack. Now they're looking to defend, and here it is, the double sniper to match up against Snakes, who are going to be running a 3-1-2, at least for now, and asking, being on that solo DPS, going to be the Hanzo.
Might, of course, still see Nesh swap over to the Widowmaker. We can't count that out as an option at the very least just yet.
Right.
Even the dive has seen some play when it comes to this first point and can really help deal with the likes of that double sniper setup. But Eagle Gaming, still looking as strong as ever. We'll look to have a good performance on this first point, and to Snake's credit, that first point defense was looking great up until the very end.
It really was. I mean, as soon as they dropped some picks, as soon as their DPS ults didn't get something done, though, I mean, it was all over from there. Asking going to make a swap, though. It's over to... Oh, for a second there, it was flashing to the Widow, and I was really looking forward to that. I wanted to see how he could deal with not only Hardest, but also Leaf, and what would be a sniper 1v2. And if he would be able to come out on top of that, somehow, some way, he's back into my MVP possibilities once again.
I mean, I think he actually did that once on the Hanzo, so might still happen. We'll see whether or not that will be the case, as already he's going to be looking forward in terms of scouting out the opposition, making sure this high ground advantage amongst the rest of his team will favor them overall. As on the other side, Hardest might be uncontested. We'll have them at the very least forced back onto this payload, as one tick is gonna be on the board here for Snakes.
And someone needs to go onto the point and contest, and it's gonna be Super Fluke. Asking did find a kill onto Leaf, so he's already won out one of those duels. Hardest very low right now, down to about 10 HP. As Asking will find him as well. He's done it once, he'll do it again.
There you go, can be on the Hanzo too. Asking, fighting that 1v2 in terms of those sniper deals will secure the fight for Snakes, and now with 6 minutes and 52 seconds, they're looking even better into that second point. But look at that, Leaf back onto the Doomfist. This has been one of the key picks when it comes to the assault maps for Eagle Gaming.
Yeah, that's their way to shift momentum, to be able to get a little breathing room. If they can turn around, find a pick, they'll deny that fight, although Asking did kill him off so quickly, finding headshot after headshot. Snakes might be able to win it out here. Hardest gets pulled back up, but he's nowhere close to having an ultimate, and now there's virtually nothing available for Eagle Gaming. Yes, they did cap out with 4 minutes, but Snakes could easily do it in 6.
They have the Graviton, they have the setup, they have the kills. One tick on the board. Soon enough, the second, we do see Eagle Gaming come back in with those stalls. The self-destruct somehow finds one, but can it find more, as we do see him on that Mei. As said, looking for those cell attacks into Dragon Strike, coming through the kills. Still in favor of Snakes. They do get that second tick, but at this point, it seems like it's a matter of time. Eagle Gaming, desperate final attempts for this defense.
Yeah, that Doomfist not really working out for them, is it? Hardest falls as well. Asking, wow, 5:46, a minute 46, quicker than Eagle Gaming. I mean, 2 minutes and 14 seconds. 2 minutes and 14 seconds to push 2 separate points against Eagle Gaming. One of, if not the strongest teams, we'll surely find out very soon in this tournament. And that's exceptional. I mean, off the back of Asking, finding those picks, able to deny not 1, but 2 snipers from Eagle Gaming. And perhaps this is where, we talk about what it would have been like if Eagle Gaming could be able to sub in Flippy at a moment's notice. Because Flippy against Asking is one of those matchups that I wish I would have been able to witness in this series. Yes, it's still possible. However, very unlikely. They haven't wanted to stray away from this particular lineup, this roster that we see out of Eagle Gaming at all. I mean, I don't think they've even had really one, maybe a support, maybe. But other than that, I mean, they haven't swapped anybody out. So unlikely, but that would be a matchup for the ages. Those two going up against each other, Flippy and Asking. However, of course, as Eagle Gaming still with a solid time, they did not finish it as quickly as Snakes. They will be up attacking first.
And look at the slight adaptation coming out of the side of Snakes. We will not see the Junkrat alongside that Hanzo. Instead, it's going to also be Kodak on the Ana to look to shut down this quad tank composition. And yes, we've talked about how a well-placed Byronade can do just that, but it's still, with so many barriers, so many things available for Eagle Gaming, gonna be very difficult. Hardest dropping pretty low. Leaf will make the swap, so it's back to the 3-0-3 for Eagle Gaming.
All right, they make that adjustment. Still warded off for now, though. They're gonna go right under the bridge, and coming down from the plat is going to be Snakes, looking to engage on the point, but taking their time and doing so as they're pushed back all the way under the bridge. Still someone on the point, though. They're going to claim Heiko's mech. Nesh looking to come back in with his team and Asking needs his Dragon Strike if they're going to do that. He finally gets it up, but he's very low. He's going to be eliminated as he tries to pull it out.
It's just unfortunate there. Eagle Gaming rapidly getting a hold of that objective, forced the opposition in a really tough spot, and now it will look to search for a race towards that second objective. A lot being built up for them. Leaf hunts Kodak down. The Earth Shatter is there, but Christopher looks to retaliate with a lot of pressure coming out of Snakes as well. Can they find the kill so far? Going back and forth as Leaf will continue to flail away. The Graviton is there too, but catches only 1, and somehow Eagle Gaming still find the kills. 2-6 as said on the board, rapidly approaching that third. We do see the sleep connect, but will not find his way onto that point. Kodak denied, and Eagle Gaming, what an attack.
Eagle Gaming is like 214, huh? 214? Why don't we do it in 125? No big deal at all. Eagle Gaming is one of the fastest takes we've seen on this map. Now, I mean, with 4 points, Snakes, if they have, the same exact time that they got the first attack with, which is unlikely but possible, they're still going to be, ahead, but things would look a lot more equal. They will have to have an exceptional attack for the second time in a row for them to even come close to what Eagle Gaming has here. So great stuff from Eagle Gaming to come back in, and now certainly I feel like they probably have to feel quite confident once again, coming away from their defense. I think they probably would have been thinking, oh, maybe now we'll have to go to a map number 4. Maybe now we'll have to go to Route 66, but maybe that won't be the case. We'll have to see, though. Snakes, once again, onto the attack, and they have, this time, I believe, well, Heiko should probably swap to D.Va, I imagine. So that, yeah, exactly. He will. Asking once again, though, on the Hanzo. Let's see if he can kill off Eagle Gaming once more, but this time won't be tanks that he's going, or rather, it will be tanks that he's going up against, as opposed to the snipers that he was able to take out last time. And I talked about this again, I will talk about this again. Eagle Gaming, they know they can't match up in the double sniper department, so they just don't even go for it.
And this pass seems to be the kryptonite for Snakes, but as I say that, Christopher does find the charge kill onto Super Blue, already with a 6v5, will look to push them away, and if they get the advantage right here, Snakes might just roll his first point. Very risky gamble coming out of Eagle Gaming. We'll see if it's going to pay off, as at the very least now, moving backwards, disengaging, they will be able to regroup for one more fight with Super Blue coming back in.
Oh, here it comes. They're going to go through a choke as they just run straight in. Hardest has massive energy, though. Earthshatter gonna be booped up and denied as well. Dragon Strike comes out from asking, not finding a kill just yet, and it's gonna be Eagle Gaming with the first kill on the board onto Kodak. They also take out Heiko as well. No tanks left, no main tanks left, as it's just Nesh sticking to the point. They were able to take 2 caps before Eagle Gaming came back onto the point. So not all for naught, at least at this stage, but still Eagle Gaming finding their way back into this one.
And I think that was very smartly played by Eagle Gaming to make sure that they do not give up anything else outside of that Reinhardt death in Super Fluke, managing to regroup, comeback kids right in the perfect time. Yes, they do give up 2 ticks, but they will be able to solve quite a bit of time off of their opponents. Now looking to go back in. Graviton's available on both sides, but we'll look to see if that Matrix is going to be pesky. And again, it's going to be the Graviton popped on both ends. Sound Barrier defensively, though. Now even popped defensively. Earthshatter coming out of Christopher finds one potential kill onto Leaf, as he will eventually go down. 6v5 advantage, but they need to push through.
Oh, nice self-destruct to push them back behind the bridge. We see Dragon Strike come through as well, certainly ripping into them, just as Kodak's Coalescence is as well. And they will be able to take this fight and the point along with it, secure themselves an extra 30 seconds. And now they have about a minute more than Eagle Gaming does, but they have to cap it in that time to equalize. As we go forward, they don't really have a lot of options for ults, but they do have Christopher's Earthshatter coming up pretty soon. Super Fluke already has one of his own, though.
And that Ryan v Ryan battle is going to be very important here. The mind games with those shields, and will be Christopher coming out on top, but the charge is there, so it's 3 for 1. The returner Shatter finds a few as well. Kave going down, but it is going to be asking alongside the rest of his team, still alive, but to the point. 2 ticks soon enough. Dragon Strike at the ready. Can anyone even come back in? It's going to have to be Leaf on that Tracer. He doesn't manage, gets shut down, and we still see Snakes get a better time.
They got a much better time. Well, not much better, but still, you know, a very, very solid time for themselves here. Just a few seconds off of just the same time that they set for themselves the first time around. And once again, it's going to be Eagle Gaming. This could be one of the highest scoring assault maps that we have seen yet. I believe the highest that we've seen so far in this tournament was a 5 for a win on this map as well. So or not on this map, but on a 2CP map. And that was a 5-5 with CIS Hope versus Bird Boys that had to go into a tiebreaker on Oasis. But Anubis, you know, historically can be a high-scoring map. Looks like we will get that here. Eagle Gaming once again with the 3-0-3 could potentially turn out into a 4-0-2 depending on, you know, how Leaf wants to approach this. If they want to go with the quad tank, you know, bring out the Winston once again, or if they want to just go ahead with the Brigitte. We'll have to see, though. But look at Snakes. Defensively, they will be bringing out asking on that solo DPS once more.
And this has seemed to be the best composition they really have when it comes to dealing with that potential quad tank or Theo free overall. Will be a safe choice nevertheless. However, on the opponent's side, Eagle Gaming looking to build another potential advantage for themselves. Will be sticking to that Theo free comp, looking to push their way through onto the point.
All right, here we go. Artist pushing forward with the rest of his team. Eagle Gaming trying to come through the bridge now, as they will push their way through. Eagle Gaming has Leaf here to back them up on the Brigitte. They throw everybody into the back corner. They're getting control already.
But look at that, Snake still contesting, not giving away, not even a 1 tick. Asking already with a Dragon Strike. It's gonna push them away, section them off. Lobo will go down, Super Fluke managing to stay alive with the use of that Coalescence, but maybe that is too much committed on the side of Eagle Gaming, as we will see Snakes alongside Christopher and the rest of that front line surge forward, push their opponents away, and have a lot of ultimates being built up for themselves too.
Christopher, Earthshatter, Super Fluke, Earthshatter. Super Fluke did so well in their final defense, you know, just moments ago, but the rest of his team just crumbled behind him without the support of that barrier. Now we'll see Super Fluke engaging, looking to get aggressive here. They're looking for that barrier play, having the Brigitte open things up for the Earthshatter to come down. Who's gonna get the better end of the deal here? Oh, it's gonna be Super Fluke going up first.
Oh, but the Earthshatter return is not going to find much success either. And so far, ASCII Goalie finding the D-suit. The kills are still going to come through for Eagle Gaming as they clean up house Nobody left on the point coming out of Snakes. Hardest getting a triple for himself and the Graviton into this next team fight. They will have a decent amount of time left and the ultimates to make sure that they do get the second point. But the return fire coming out of Snakes could be enough to halt them.
We'll see who's going to get the bigger Graviton off as Nesh is just lying in wait underneath the bridge. I don't think anybody sees him, so I don't know if NiKo is going to be able to sense this one coming. Here it comes down, Dragon Strike to follow up, and they're just going to expend what they can to be able to secure this fight. 3 ultimates for that win, and nothing used here at all for Eagle Gaming. And as they approach this next engagement, you're looking at Graviton, you're looking at Sound Barrier to sustain, you're looking at Transcendence to sustain, you're looking at 65% equalizing Christopher right now on the Earthshatter as well. I mean, you have Rally coming up pretty soon if you're able to cleave, and you have the sustain to do just that. So Eagle Gaming definitely have what they need to be able to get this next cap.
We'll see them open it up with the Graviton Sound Barrier on both sides. Self-destruct is not going to find the kill. Coalescent will be popped. The charge is not going to find any kill coming out of Christopher. The Air Shadow will be there. That might be enough to secure those kills. NiKo is going to pick up an easy triple kill off of it. And now Eagle Gaming has to continue on to find those potential kills. It's 1-6 soon enough on the board. And we'll look to see if they can cap this one out. 36 seconds left. Unfortunately, it seems like there were some slight issues for them. Hopefully nothing too major, but definitely making the most out of those ultimates.
Yeah, NiKo is the one that, well, I thought it was NiKo. Yeah, NiKo, it wasn't just NiKo, it's almost everyone from Eagle Gaming just disconnected. So this could be horrific for them. They were well on their way to the next cap, but now they lose 3 players. They only have 3 left on the point, and it's all of their supports. They lost every one of their tanks to a disconnect right out of the gate. As soon as they look to start capping, I mean, Christopher is coming back, Nesh is coming back. They easily could have capped that. They easily could have capped that. And it will be so disheartening, I think, if they wind up losing this map because they had a triple disconnect at the same time.
Because it was looking so good, right? They held their composure throughout all of those ultimates coming out of the side of Snakes. They make sure that going into this last team fight, they had just an absolute huge advantage. Yeah. Capitalize off of it, get the Graviton, secure an easy triple through the Earthshatter, I believe, alongside NiKo.
Right.
And in the end, now it seems like it might not even matter. Very unfortunate situation for them. But it's, of course, not over just yet. Even if they don't manage to get this final point through, they can still make the stall happen throughout their respective defensive round.
Yeah, I mean, at least some takeaway for them, you know, is that they were able to get about 56%. They might be able to get a couple more if they can stave off Christopher and Nesh for a little bit longer. But Nesh coming back on a Tracer is going to be hard to kill. They're going to have to really rely on the Brigitte to be able to take him out quickly. Just dispatch the Tracer almost immediately with, you know, like a 1-stun combo. And then I don't know how they're going to deal with Christopher because pretty soon they're going to have Moira involved as well and Kodak coming in, going to have the Fade if he doesn't use that for mobility or if he hasn't already used that for mobility. So a lot of options now to defend, to continue this stall as 3 members got DC'd. I mean, it's just the unfortunate fact of, you know, the online tournament scene where this can sometimes happen. And it's just usually at the worst possible time. But it looks like we are getting some of them back. They are coming back into the game. A little unfortunate, like you mentioned, and we'll probably say it about 700 more times that it's just straight up unfortunate at this stage to have this happen because, again, they were well on their way to being able to unlock that 6th point, one of the more higher scoring games that we've seen. But even if they die out, even if they lose this push, we could see them just push in again and have another opportunity to perhaps, you know, get more percentage on the board for themselves. But again, it'll be very difficult.
And at the very least, as you said, for them, not only did they manage to get that first point in this attacking round, they also managed to get around 56.1% when it comes to the second point. So they will have quite a bit to work with in terms of their defensive round as well, even if Snakes managed to hold them off in the second objective. And we will move to their attack, but hopefully they'll manage to get back up and online and running soon enough. It's, again, as you said, those unfortunate events that can happen with these online tournaments. But nothing to take away from Snakes as well. They did manage to play this one out really, really well. We will be moving on to a break. Give these players some time to reconnect, and hopefully we'll be back. Unfortunately, Eagle Gaming still having some connectivity issues. There will be troopers, though. They will be trying at the very least to reconnect with the use of that 4G, but that is not exactly what you want.
Oh no. I mean, we're talking about grand finals. So much money being on the line right now. You have 11 guys on roster. Unfortunately, a lot of them just aren't available right now. So before anybody goes in and thinks that they're now going to become Eagle Gaming's coach and suggest that they bring out three of their players that are not actively playing, they tried. They're not available right now, unfortunately. So they're going to try to bring back those same players, as you mentioned, on 4G to at least try to connect and allow us to finish out this game. It looks like we have some of them coming through. I think Get Amaze is actually going to be playing for one of them at the moment. We'll see who can even make it back in. But Eagle Gaming attempting to put together, a team of players that can get into the game and still play. It's so unfortunate, though. So we're, ever closer to that 700 mark that I said we would hit with that word unfortunate to describe what's happening right now, because that's really and truly what it is. But, it's just a matter of time until Eagle Gaming readies themselves. Unfortunately, it's likely we'll still be able to play this out. It's very likely that we will be able to see them play. It's going to probably be a situation where they're going to be playing on, some 4G. That's not always the greatest, but when you're in a situation where you're already ahead 2-0 in the set, you are certainly sitting in a good position at the moment where, you have another point on the board. You have 56.1%. You might be able to squeak out a couple more percentages a little bit before someone can come back in. Unlikely that you get that second tick, but if you can, great. You have a really good shot at being able to, still win this map out. All things considered, that would be insane. But, uh-oh. We actually, we were about to jump into the game, but it looks like
that 4G.
super fluke. The 4G just not strong enough, but luckily for them, it kind of works out in their favor because, not able to get into the position when the pause got undone, they are able to get that second tick. So now, instead of being at 56.1, they're at 69.5. So they achieved that second tick. They're a little bit further ahead now. Maybe they have a shot, but they really have to have a tank here. Maybe it's time for Nox to come in if they can reach him at some stage.
And I think that's the important thing. While, yes, this is a very unfortunate situation, as we said so many times already.
Just add another check here.
Yeah, and that's it. But at the very least, it's still winnable, right? Even if they do not get that second point, they can most definitely, if they manage to regroup, that is, get that hold on that first point once we swap sides and we have Snakes attacking. And even if that doesn't quite happen, Eagle Gaming are up 2-0. They're already at match point. Yes, even if they lose Anubis, it will be a sad state of affairs for them, but they still have a shot at winning out the tournament. A good one at that.
Yeah, they still really do. And then, at any point, they could have everything come back up and everything's fine and dandy. It's glorious. It's great. But for now, it's still a dangerous situation for them. They really need to make sure that they can close this one out. I mean, not a lot of time for them left to have this figured out.
And unfortunately, still not quite back in. We'll move on to our last break allocated towards the team. Hopefully, they'll manage to fix everything up so that we can resume Anubis. are back in the pit. We did manage to find those substitutions for Eagle Gaming. It is going to be Get Amazed and Nox coming in for them. It's going to be two important members at that, as we will see the fight continue on to the point. Nor Hip or Nesh will be going down, so we're facing up against each other during that break. But as they will look to regroup, we still have a shot at Eagle Gaming getting that point.
Yeah, we during the break, we had Hip and Nesh talking to each other. Good luck, Nesh. Good luck, Hip, because they were matching up. But now the re-engage, asking, coming around the side, should be able to deny them here, and does find that kill onto Hardest. They're going in without much of anything. 4 seconds left for them as they're looking to try to sustain on this point. So far, really haven't found much damage at all onto the lineup of Snakes, who are cleaning things up on the point. And they should make the hold here, although not before 85.3% towards the second objective for Eagle Gaming. This is the tough part, though. You are without Super Pluke. You are without Nico. You know, two of, probably the most integral pieces of the puzzle for this composition. However, Get Amazed has shown in the past that, he's a phenomenal diva. He came in as a flex tank for this roster and, really has shown, a level of proficiency that I think would put him on a lot of other teams, right at the top, main lineup 100% of the time. But Nox is a player that I think the name speaks for itself. You're talking about a player that has had a prolific history in this game, over the last 2 years or so, switching roles and then looking so solid on Winston, and then now making the swap with Eagle Gaming to just expand his hero pool, and he's become more dynamic in his play and in his calling. And I think he should be able to shore up, what they might have lost in their main tank, not being around. But with Nox coming back in, Get Amazed coming back in, they now have to make this stop. 3:37 on the clock. Against the full lineup, Snakes didn't really have much trouble attacking. Now as they look to take on Eagle Gaming with a disjointed roster, a different look from this team, what do you expect? Is it all over right here now?
Well, this call for a different type of composition on defense here for Eagle Gaming. I think if Leaf and Hardest can keep up the performance, of course, as you said, Nox definitely a big player in the Overwatch scene throughout the last 2 years. We'll see if he can have a big impact right now. I expect him to be weaker overall, but still put up a really good fight here.
Yeah, we did see Asking set up now up top, but the rest of his team, they're looking to just fall down onto the point, look for early control. Still set up now. Snakes now are forced to go and contest. They managed to get, not even the first tick, not just yet, but now they get it.
And we'll see Christopher just up front will be taken out. It is a 1-for-1 as Leaf did fall as well. The Coalescence will be there. Coming out of Kodak, looking to secure more, but it's going to be Hip fighting the kills instead on that Zenyatta. And with the member advantage still in favor of Eagle Gaming, they do hold out for now, but 2 ticks already on the board. Transcendence will be there. They need to push their advantage, and there it is. More kills coming live, and Eagle Gaming make the hold.
They forced out the Transcendence in the process, though, and Hip without that. Actually, Lilbo will have to get the res off. They do manage to get that. It's very safe behind that barrier. Nox just wasn't able to get that out first. Asking, holding onto that Dragon Strike. It's going to come down to a battle between the Dragon Strike and this Riptire. Who can find more value? The Riptire up against the quad tank from Snakes.
I mean, you can't count out Leaf either, because he should have his respective Dragon Strike available soon enough. In the meantime, though, Christopher, under a lot of pressure, will be the first one to fall as Hip finds that target yet again. The Riptire is going to find Asking too. And with Leaf getting the D-suit, it's 1 minute and 52 seconds. And you asked if this is going to still be looking good for Eagle Gaming, Kurek said so far, it most definitely is looking super good.
This is actually one of their best defenses. I mean, on this map at least, it's one of their better defenses in this particular showing. But now they still have Dragon Strike. So does Asking, and Nesh is at 80%. So, I mean, it realistically is just a matter of time. But if Eagle Gaming can force Snakes to utilize almost everything that they have here to be able to take this first point.
No.
Oh, did that just get eaten?
Yes, it did. Get Amazed. Amazing us too. No, it's not just about Nico on this roster. Dragon Strike coming in from Leaf will look to push them away. We might see Eagle Gaming come out top with the win. Remember, in this match, point, looking to push them away. It's going to be the self-destruct, getting the count to Nesh. A big target. Graviton is not going to be available, however, it's not over just yet. Heiko pops that self-destruct, finds the kill onto Lilbo. A big one. Nox will drop, and we'll see Snake still somehow find those kills in the end, but it was looking very, very grim.
Hardest has his Riptire available. They're looking to spam them out if they can. Remember, they need to get 85.4% to win out here. There is no tying. It's either Eagle Gaming takes this home with having 3 of their players DC and their attack, or Snakes takes us to a map number 4. Here's the Riptire to find out.
And so far looking for this target, gets one onto Christopher. A lot of ultimates still available for this attacking side. We'll look to see whether or not they're going to regroup. They are looking for that indeed, but since Leaf found the kill in the end with Hardest onto Heiko, that will stagger them further, make sure they lose all that valuable time, and now Hip will be getting also close towards that Transcendence.
They have to make sure that they live through that Graviton, and Hip staying alive and getting this Transcendence is going to be a big factor in that. Have to make sure that he remains protected. They have to make sure that they don't lose too many people into that grab. Hardest dies off before the fight even really starts. Graviton ready for Nesh.
And will he use it so far? Has been canceled out once.
He dies out.
He dies out. No mercy. Well, or rather, the Riptire is not going to be available just yet. He does find 1 kill onto Nesh finally, and the Graviton will not be there. The Dragon Strike will though. 2 kills in favor of Eagle Gaming, but asking, getting back at them with the Dragon Strike. Finds one onto Get Amazed. Valkyrie will be there. Meteor Strike coming back in. 4-Leaf getting by the target. He does. And Gaming could do it. 2 ticks on the board. However, it's not going to be past that 85%. And it seems like Eagle Gaming with 3 subs.
They have done it.
Oh, they still do it. They still get the win. And a 3-0 at that.
Eagle Gaming. What a way to fight back, man. I mean, what a way. One of the best defenses we saw this entire time is with having 2 subs come back in, and they end it the same way that we saw them, starting it against Snakes yesterday. They close it out with Hardest on that Reaper. That's the same thing we saw yesterday when we saw them contesting on this map. It's such a cool way to see them kind of make it full circle and close it off. And there's your European winners crowned. Eagle Gaming, 3 O's, 3 1s, and yet another 3-0, only dropping 1 single map throughout this